Baltimore and W Drive. I've been away a couple of days doing some Peter principles, but obviously the Yankees and the Orioles heating it up at Oriole Park at Camden Yards on the front end of this whole Joe Flacco situation, and the Terps with their big victory against Texas. But this guy runs around with the New York Yankees as well as with the Stan Rubin Orchestra in dimly lit saloons in Manhattan. He is the Yankees beat writer at the Bergen Record. We welcome one of our defending champions back. Pete Caldera joins us live to talk a little Orioles and Yankees and pennant race. First off, first things first, Pete, I'll tell you what, the Yankees look like they want to catch the Red Sox, right? Like this whole wild card, and we're going to go to Yankee Stadium if we get there. I think the Yankees have other plans here. They look to be like in a position here to, over the last month, take a run at this.
Yeah, last weekend they really, sort of reestablished the fact that, that of what we thought earlier in this season that they could surely compete with the Red Sox, but their starting pitching has been terrific. We all know about how good their bullpen is, and that can take you far in October if you get there. But it's just been the sporadic nature of their starting lineup. Since Judge cooled off in the second half, and they really haven't gotten the full production out of that lineup. But you're starting to see some guys come back now. They got Matt Holliday back off the DL. They got Starlin Castro back off the DL. They're getting, a little better production out of Todd Frazier. They got Greg Bird back in the lineup at first base. So things are starting to look up, at least offensively for this team and at the right time.
Well, you mentioned the bullpen and how strong it is, and that's obvious, but the starting pitching they've only been as good as their starting pitching, and it's been choppy for different parts of the season when the bats slowed down. But the pickup of Gray and knowing that's sitting there every fifth day, as an Oriole fan, I would have loved to see him in our rotation every fifth day or sixth day, as opposed to this Tillman, Jimenez, Wade Miley. You never know what you're going to get around here. And yet with the Yankees, Tanaka was so not right for so long, and it feels like that's gotten better. Severino's been very consistent. Now you add Gray. When you're getting that 3 out of every 4 or 5 nights, that's a world of difference from where this thing was on the bad times, right?
Yeah, right. And you hit it. They're starting to get production out of Tanaka that, for 20-something starts of this season, he was hit and miss, and a lot of times miss. And when he missed, it could look pretty bad, and that was not expected. They're starting now since Tanaka came off the DL, 3 starts since he came off the DL with basically arm fatigue. And skipped a turn. He's been real good. 7 innings, and 8 innings, and he has looked like the Tanaka you're used to seeing. And if they get that combined with Luis Severino, who's been the legitimate ace all year, as you mentioned, Sonny Gray is more than stabilized his part of the rotation there. He's a force, and the year that they're getting out of CC Sabathia is that adds up to, once again, if they make it to postseason, that they're going to throw a pitcher out there who's going to give you a battle in October, and that's exactly what you need. And if they can get them, through 6 innings, you've got that bullpen back there that can make a difference too.
I mean, around here we were astonished, and I'm sure. Look, you follow baseball, you cover baseball. You were part of a fire sale last summer up there in New York, and I remember you and I talking about it before and after, because we played you guys after that in September. And this thing's come together so quickly for the Yankees. Meanwhile, the Orioles sort of stayed in with Hellickson, went further in with Beckham, and the Beckham trade has been one of the great trades of all time for what you got out of I called him a 4A player the day they traded for him, and Luke urinated upon that, and he proceeded to hit 500 for 2 weeks, 400 for a month, and that's what you hope to accomplish. But certainly the Yankees have now done it both ways. I mean, winning the Sonny Gray sweepstakes and getting him into the rotation, that's a big part of this. He might be the guy towing the rubber on that evening 1-game winner take all in early October. There's certainly a case to be made for that, right?
Yeah, it could be. You wouldn't, you wouldn't think the Yankees' chances would be any less whether they throw Gray, Tanaka, or Severino out there if they had to have a must-win wild card game if it got down to that. But at least they're in that position now where they're in control of that. They're in control of that wild card, and they look to be the team that would at least host it if they don't. if they don't win the division outright. But little tough now if they don't have any more games left with the Red Sox. So you can't go head-to-head anymore with them, and you're going to need some help from other teams. And the Red Sox have an easier schedule down the stretch in September than the Yankees do on paper. So, yeah, but right, you would at this point, with the moves that the Yankees made and Cashman made this past trade deadline, they really reinforced themselves for a run in October. But yeah, you got to get there first.
Well, for all the star power that's come through there and been a part of there, and obviously the Riveras and the Jeters leave, who's going to soak up that oxygen? And certainly you as one of the beat writers, as one of the many beat writers, the Sanchez story was otherworldly at the end of last year and into the offseason, and we went 6 months of that. Then the Judge thing happened for a couple of months. But as the team gets in here Labor Day and they threaten to win this division, certainly they're going to be in the postseason in a couple of weeks, and we'd like to be that team that comes up there and plays 9 innings in a couple of weeks. But to me, it's Didi Gregorius and Starlin Castro who, in the middle of the order as they come in here in this pennant race, those guys are a little bit unheralded outside of the pinstripes and outside of the fan base. Neither one of those guys has ever been presented as sort of larger than life the way Judge and Sanchez have. And, they both have a combined less than 800 at-bats in the big leagues, right?
Yeah, you're right. Castro, before he had the hamstring injury, was one of the more consistent players in that lineup, and he was part of the reason that they ran off, to such a successful April and May and to the middle of June run there. Didi Gregorius has been their best everyday player, period, this year. He really has. He's been consistent. He's been. You won't find a better range glove arm combination defensively at shortstop. And what he's done offensively, and as a left-hand hitter, the way he neutralizes left-handed pitching, he's given them everything you could possibly ask for. Yes, and he's not the sexiest quote. He doesn't really like talking much about himself. But his personality comes out on the field. And in what you're seeing is a player that is making a huge difference for the Yankees. He is vitally important for them. And you see, even in this Orioles series, I mean, he'll be batting cleanup occasionally against right-handed pitching because this is a guy that's hit 2 through 9 in the batting order as a Yankee in the 2.5 years they've had him. He's that. He's that versatile. So yeah, this is a difference maker for sure.
Well, you also mentioned how Cashman runs the organization, where the trades come from. I mean, look, man, we're in Baltimore, dude. We don't really believe there is a plan here because there ain't ever been a plan here. The plan is what mood is the old man in today, and what crazy contract for Chris Davis is he going to give, or which one does he not want to give for Nelson Cruz or Markakis or anybody else. The one thing about New York is you look back 2.5, 3 years later on the Gregorius trade. It was a little bit controversial at the time, I guess, and there was a question as to whether he would ever be a star player or a superstar player. But all of these trades in the Yankees' favor, lots of them, not all, but many of them have worked out since wasting some money on a Jacoby Ellsbury or maybe signing Teixeira or Sabathia too late, too long, too rich. But, along with that comes things like this that were really incredible under-the-radar moves that have paid off 2.5 years later.
Yeah, and some of it's like, I really wonder that if J.J. Hardy hadn't signed that extension in October of 15, that he might have been the Yankee starting shortstop in 16, and they never would have made the Didi Gregorius trade. It's luck of the draw, stuff like that, but they did do their homework on Gregorius. And listen, this guy had a real rough first half start to his Yankee career, and listen, no one wants to deal with the pressure of being the guy that follows Derek Jeter, and he had to deal with that for the better part of a year. But he's certainly overcome all of that now, and is as we said, a difference-making player in his own right.
Pete Caldera covers the New York Yankees for the Bergen Record. You can follow his journey out on Twitter at P. Caldera, as well as at the Bergen Record online as well, and singing with the Stan Rubin Orchestra. And I'm going to promote that he is playing the Carnegie Club in New York on September 15th. You know, if I just would have scored those Springsteen on Broadway tickets, I could have made that a twofer at some point, Pete.
Yeah. Well, you're always welcome to come down. It's a lot of fun. Usually once a month we're at the Carnegie Club, and be there from 9 to midnight on the 15th. So I appreciate you plugging it.
You singing "The Girl from Ipanema" for me, or you singing you know,
yeah,
Mac the Knife? You got a little ad in there for me?
Sure. Absolutely,
you know,
all that stuff.
I lost my mom 3 weeks ago. She was 98 years old, and at her funeral, you know, the funeral director said, "What should you play for?" And I said, "You know, she really loved Engelbert Humperdinck, you know." And he said, "She didn't love Tom Jones?" I'm like, "No, she loved Engelbert Humperdinck." So we played a lot of Engelbert Humperdinck, and there really is something to be said for the crooning music of the 50s and 60s, I must admit.
Yeah, it's you know what, that kind of music is timeless, and it's always going to be played somewhere. You know, I wonder about the stuff you hear being played in clubhouses, you know, now that, you know, before and after games, and, you know, how eternal is this music going to be? Well, you know, just from my own standpoint, it's probably not. But
you're saying Little Wayne won't, three centuries from now, we won't be talking about Little Wayne like he's Tchaikovsky, or no?
You know what, I can't claim to know anything about his music, but if they're playing it at weddings 50 years from now, then you can say it's that kind of timeless music that we love. So.
I love your style, Pete Caldera from the Bergen Record. Let's get back onto this pennant race and where we are with the Orioles, with all of these other teams. And I guess from my perspective as a longtime fan and observer, first off, I'm shocked the Orioles are in this. I mean, I'll freely admit that, especially given how bad the pitching was, how long it was bad.
Yeah.
I mean, you see Bundy on Monday, and he can't get out of his own way, and he needs extra rest, and there's too many innings. There's too little bullpen. There's a lot of things going on. But Buck is pretty crafty with this 40-man, and the fact that they've stayed in this long, there's no reason for me to believe they can't. They had a big winning streak 2 weeks ago. And all of these other teams, like, nobody wants to run away with this. But I think in this clubhouse specifically, when you're talking about Adam Jones, you're talking about guys that have been around for a little while, the Tillmans and those guys, the notion of 9 innings at Yankee Stadium for all the marbles in early October, or even for the Royals or some of these teams making a last stand, it is a pretty delicious sort of, you know, winner-take-all Game 1, Game 7 in New York, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's where we're headed. You know, the Orioles have listened. Everything was always contingent on how well their starting pitching would perform. You know, they had some injuries, obviously, in the bullpen that didn't help. But you know, certainly having to contend with that lineup, especially in this ballpark where they've been so successful. That's no. It's no walk in the park. That's tough. That's tough work. But yeah, it's, you know, this is where the Yankees have been fortunate because, you know, we mentioned it earlier. This, you know, you didn't expect to get a Sonny Gray in your rotation by midseason. You didn't expect to have the year that they're getting out of CC Sabathia. You didn't expect Luis Severino to emerge as an ace in his first full season in a big league rotation. All of that came together for the Yankees.
Oh, by the way, you didn't expect Aaron Judge to turn into Mickey Mantle for 60 days either, right?
No, but then by the same token, you didn't expect him to really fall off the edge since the All-Star break too. Then, so you know, and listen, every team has had to deal with injuries. The Yankees are no exception. They've you know, they missed Gregorius for a whole month to start the season. Gary Sanchez got hurt right here at Camden Yards. That first weekend of the season, he was out for a month. They had to plug and play different players, guys like Austin Romine, Ronald Torreyes, who you wouldn't expect to make contributions, but they made key contributions in April that got them off to that good start, that put them in a position to be a buyer at the deadline. All those things came together. You weren't anticipating, but listen, I'm sure we talked before the season, and when you talked about the Yankees, there wasn't anyone picking this team to be an October team. They weren't going to sniff a wild card. Everything had to go right for this team, and everything basically has, despite the injury situations that they've had. So this is, you know, in some ways this has been a bonus season for the Yankees, but once they got to the trade deadline and made those moves, yeah, this was going to be October or bust again.
3 weeks out on this thing. This is pretty delicious, right? I mean, Cleveland hasn't lost in 2 weeks. Houston, despite the storm and everything that it entails, the Verlander thing, and they've won a lot of ball games, and then this catfight for this last wild card. Hey, I mean, the Yankees and the Red Sox could go into that last weekend a game or two apart and have to throw their pitchers, and whatever pitcher you see in the wild card game might not be. And then on top of that, there might be 3 or 4 teams all tied. I mean, the thing could really be a mess the first week of October. Really could.
Yeah, and it's almost a shame that the Yankees and the Red Sox they're done playing each other before Labor Day even it came around. So you're not going to see that last week or two of the season where there's a crucial series at Fenway Park or Yankee Stadium between those two teams. They're going to have to do it against other clubs, and that takes a little bit of the drama away from it. But there's certainly some renewed, spirit into this rivalry now, especially when these teams are so young and they look like they're going to be around for a while, competing against each other. Guys like Mookie Betts and Aaron Judge and Greg Bird and Jackie Bradley Jr. and now Devers and all those guys, Benintendi, that the Red Sox is just loaded with that kind of young talent that looks like it has a lot of staying power. So this could be fun for a while.
Pete, keep singing them and covering them up there with the Yankees. We'll keep in touch with you as the month goes on, and who knows? I mean, it might be us up there in the Bronx in a couple of weeks. We're certainly headed in that direction. Always a pleasure to have you on, bud.
It'd be fun. Thanks again, Nestor. Appreciate it.
No tourist crab cakes in Baltimore for Pete Caldera. He is Pete Caldera on Twitter as well as at the Bergen Record and the occasional band vocalist with the Stan Rubin Orchestra in Old Manhattan performing at the Carnegie Club on September 15th. Almost makes me want to go there, but I got the London-Paris thing going on. By the way, if you're going over to London, we got a big party for you on Saturday. We're going to be at the Fox at XL in the Docklands area in East London. All the information's up online, but it's right near the Emirates Air cable car, one of the real cool attractions in London on the east side. Our party is near the cable car. We are going to ride the cable car collectively at 2:52, give you all afternoon to get over. Then we're going to go over to the O2 and have some fun. Find a bar, find a pint, light it up for the Ravens as they play the Jaguars 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks. Gosh, 2.5 weeks from now. Going back to London. I'm excited about that. So come along with us if you're going to be over in London and join us. You can find me out on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. You can always reach me, nasty at WNST.net. And if you miss anything here at all on the radio, you can find us out in the buyatoyota.com audio vault. You can podcast, download, listen when you want, where you want, how you want. It's the way the kids are doing it these days. It is the buyatoyota.com audio vault. Morning newspaper ships to your email inbox digitally each and every morning at 7 a.m. That's all brought to you by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com, where it's still $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life. Last but never least, breaking news happens first on our WNST tech service. That is all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Of course, Dennis Colatzos will be here on Thursday driving you home with the SSV on WNST. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.